Hey guys and girls, Bored Now back with you, and this is day 4 of my month-long horror marathon. And today I'm doing a more recent release, a new release, which is in cinemas now, and that is Ready or Not. Some of you might have seen the posters or the adverts for it. And it's a horror comedy really, with this macabre sort of sense of humour to it. It's a really interesting film. So it stars Samara Weaving, who some people might remember from the Netflix film The Babysitter a couple of years ago. I wasn't so keen on that film, but I did enjoy her performance in it. I thought she was really good, and she really stood out to me as probably the best part of that film. Now, to be fair, I know a lot of people like The Babysitter, so I will re-watch it at some point just to see maybe if I was a bit, unfair on it first time. But she was really good in it anyway, and I think you could see this really great talent, who could have a big future. So she plays the lead in this. She is about to get married to this guy she's been seeing for about a year and a half, but that she's going to meet his family for the first time in this big country mansion type thing, something you might see in like an Agatha Christie type production. And so it's out in the country. She's meeting them for the first time, and they have, unusual sort of ways. They're very oddball and quirky and, quite sort of sinister. And I think what it's doing is it's using, the sort of horror genre as a metaphor for kind of the tension and the nerves of meeting someone's family for the first time, someone who obviously you're in a relationship with. But they're about to be married at the start of the film, so they get married, with the family all there. But lo and behold, of course, there's a horror twist, and it's quite a wacky one. It's then on midnight of the night of their marriage, Grace, the Samara Weaving character, finds out then, lo and behold, she must take part in a game of hide and seek, very random, and she asks, well, who's going to hide? And the father of the family says, why, it's you, dear. That's probably not the exact line, but I just enjoyed inserting that in there. So she has to hide, and obviously with it being a horror movie, it turns into a deadly survival type game where Grace is fighting for her survival. And there's kind of a twist. Well, I mean, I won't go too much into it without spoilers, but where it's an ancient tradition which has been in the family for years. And we see at the start of the film opening with a scene which is in the past where this whole tradition began. So basically it's brought up in the film, then according to the tradition, they must kill the bride in this ceremony. If they do not, then the whole family will die. And the film has a lot of fun with that. It has a lot of fun with, I think, sending up and parodying these sorts of storylines that you see in supernatural films, and which take themselves way too seriously at times. And it has some good fun poking fun at like rich families and like aristocracy, that sort of thing. So that's the setup. It's a fun little horror convention, a fun little horror premise, and it's one of those horror movies that has rules to it, and it almost feels like a game sort of playing out in chapter, and that's the sort of thing that's the sort of structure I can really get behind and have fun with if it's done well. And it is done well. It's done very well. This is a really entertaining romp of a mainstream horror, if you like. Although in some ways, it feels like a film that just happens to be in mainstream cinemas. I mean, it's quite an easy one to pitch to a large audience, but at the same time, when you actually watch the film, it's very nuts and bolts, it's very wacky, it's very out there, and it does appeal more to a niche audience, which is, it's all the more better for it. But that's kind of the caveat going in. I'd say it's not going to be for everyone. Some people will just lose patience. Some people be, this is just too wacky. This is crazy. This is a mess. Some people will see it as being just a bit of a mess. And at times it was a mess, but it was a glorious mess. They really played up the hammy, ridiculous side of it, and it ended up being very fun as a result. So depending on what you're going for, but to me this ticks all the boxes. It's a great horror comedy where at times you laugh a lot, but you're also scared in the same instance. There's some great slapstick humour in the tradition of the Evil Dead, that kind of thing. It almost feels like a country house type, almost, well, not murder plot, but an Agatha Christie type thing combined with an Evil Dead, but on sort of like really turned up to 11. And there's some great moments of gore. It really pays that off as the film plays out. And it's also has a sort of a feminist sort of turn to it, because over the course of the film, Grace does become more empowered, obviously, when her life is in threat and things really start getting serious. And they do play that as ridiculous. That it's meant to be silly and absurd, because you get all these developments where, she keeps almost getting killed and then escapes. And there's a really hilarious scene with when one of the ditzy family members, I think Emily, the name of the character was, and I really liked the actress who played her, but she accidentally killed, like, I think it's either like another family member or a maid, and Grace has escaped, and they all run in, and basically, as like the grandmother of the family is doing this whole speech, the maid is slowly dying, so she keeps interrupting her and is dying, so eventually she goes over and just like clobbers her with like a thing. So you get great macabre humour like that, which is just hilarious. But yes, I was talking about the whole feminist thing, because I think over the course of the film, Grace is empowered. She really becomes tough. She really finds herself over the course of the film. And Samara Weaving, again, I'll say, is just brilliant. I think she's such a natural talent. I think at the start of the film, she's really convincing as this sort of, likeable girl next door, really playful, witty sort of type. You can see her as an appealing sort of bride, and very funny, very likeable, but also, there's a sense she's walking wide-eyed into this, because of course, who would know that such craziness is coming. But then when she has to, she really takes it up a level as well, when she has to play the tough, really physical stuff when it comes to the whole survival thing. And so it does have a bit of a Buffy sort of feel to that, where you get this girl who's a very normal girl at the start of the film, very, she's pretty, she's funny, but just a regular girl who's about to get married, and obviously quite excited about that. But yeah, then later in the film, she gets to really be a badass, and she's walking around with all these guns for protections, and obviously she's just great. She's got, when in those scenes, she's just got so many attitudes. And I guess I'm sort of in spoilers now because I've been talking about plot, but just the final scene of the film, the final shot is literally her, lighting up and, looking towards the camera, and the final line is something like "in-lords" or something, when she's asked by a police detective or something, what happened here, because she's there with blood on her face, and there's carnage around her. Lots of blood in this film, quite a bit, and it's glorious. It's really twisted and entertaining. some nicely fun, scrunchy sort of set pieces. But yeah, it's a great final shot with Grace just sitting there smoking and a deadpan sort of look, says in-laws. But Samara Weaving is just tremendous, and you have a lot of fun with her and the character. And I think she is a natural. And who knew it? Another gem out of Australia. They just seem to have this great conveyor belt. And she does. I was distracted actually because she does look a lot like Margot Robbie, who another Australian actress. It's sort of freaky, but she's great. It's a really good cast actually. You get a lot of like character actors, and I think a lot of the cast were like Canadian like TV film actors. I know it had the guy who played Donnie in it, who was Donnie out of Orphan Black, one of my favourite TV shows, certainly of recent. And he's really funny. He's really good at playing the naive sort of dopey type guy. At one point, he's got this crazy video on about rednecks and sort of guns and what have you. A perfect sort of send up. And as I said, that like one of the daughters, the one playing Emily, I think she's just very funny as well as this ditzy sort of southern like character. But she was very funny. I think it's well cast throughout. The father of the family, who does some fantastic overacting. I've seen him in a few things. I know he was in Legion on TV, and I see him pop up in quite a lot. He's another really good character actor, and he's great value in this. He's just very good at playing these very roguish, really absurdist sort of characters, and he just sends himself up so well. And that's what you have to take into this. It's a very tongue-in-cheek film. It's not really taking itself seriously at all. It has a fun premise, it has a simple premise, and then it just plays with that and slowly goes through the gears, and there's some fun twists and turns. The ending maybe was a step too far in some ways, but it was fine for me. It worked well and I had fun. And I do love the final shot. There's some great music in it. Brian Tyler actually he's the composer, and he's a great composer. He did the music for Bubba Hotep, which is a fantastic cult film. He's gone on to big things really. He's done like some of the Marvel movies, so he's had a real career, but he does all sorts of films. And it's sort of funny really, because this week I've seen both this and Rambo Last Blood, and obviously I could not have more contrasting opinions. Rambo Last Blood it's a real turkey. It's one of the worst films I've seen this year. On the other hand, I absolutely loved this, and just for enjoyment levels, it's one of my favourite films of the year. I had a blast. But yeah, the connection is Brian Tyler actually, he's the composer for both films, this and Rambo, and if I have to pick out something good from Rambo, I'm going to say his music, obviously, because he's really talented. And the closing montage of that film, I did love when it shows the history of the character. The film itself is terrible, but that closing montage and Brian Tyler's music is great. He's a really talented composer, so at least that's something to take away from that terrible film. But he does the music for this as well, and the music is great, of course. There's a nice sort of cover at the end, which actually it's slipping my mind now. It's a really obvious sort of 80s type song, but it's gone out of my head now. Someone remind me in the comments, but it's the song that the film closes with. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. I was enjoying it anyway for most of the film, and then just the final half of it just went into these insane areas and took it up a notch. Some great slapstick, some really funny jokes and the way they blend the horror and the comedy. I love the scene where she's in the kitchen and she's hiding behind the counter, and something like the butler comes in and he's making himself a sandwich. He keeps humming this tune, and basically she's trying to be as quiet as possible, but at the same time she's got a gun, so she's loading up a gun, and she has to keep stopping, every time he stops humming. And it comes back to him later with his music, because there's a scene where he's sort of caught her and is taking her back to the house, but then the fact that he's listening to this music ends up costing him, because she ends up escaping. And there's all sorts of twists and turns with the family. Is a certain family member going to be on her side or help her, or is he just going to trick her? So it has lots of fun with it. But yeah, that scene in the kitchen is another standout. So I absolutely loved this film, and just as I said, on a pure enjoyment level and doing a lot of things I dig in horror films, it's one of my films of the year. I'm going to put that out there. Ready or Not, I absolutely recommend it. Go and make it a hit. It deserves to be a hit. It's good that it's in mainstream cinemas. So as far as ratings go, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, absolutely loved it, and I look forward to seeing it again and getting it on DVD. I had a whale of a time. So yeah, that's obviously a new release. Ready or Not is in cinemas now, so go and check it out if you can find it. This has been day 4 of my horror movie watches for October. Many more to come over the month, hopefully some live streams. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Let me know your comments on Ready or Not in the comments below. Goodbye.